On this week's Gridiron Report, we are fully into the NFL draft season to go along with some playoff basketball for the Detroit Pistons. So let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make it.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports Podcast. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, and the NFL Draft is just over a week away, so let's jump into our bread and butter, the Detroit Lions. We have a lot to talk about with the draft. Kyle and I are going to go over some position of needs that we think the team needs to fill. We're going to go through some prospects and guys that we think will be available for the Lions at their draft position of 28. We know the draft is obviously next week, so we do have one episode in between now and then. We talked to a number of our different listeners, decided that this would be the best time to break this down, let everyone have a chance to see who we're looking into, kind of let it soak in, decide who they're looking into. So we're going to put this out today, but we have just over a week, so let's just get right into it. Going into the draft, like I said, the Detroit Lions have the 28th overall pick. They have one first-rounder, a second-round pick, a third-round pick that is actually a compensation pick for losing one of their assistant coaches. We actually traded that pick away, I believe, for Carlton Davis, but we got that back when we lost our assistant coach. We have a fourth-round pick, a sixth-round pick, and then two seventh-round picks. We're not going to break down who we think is going to be available in the seventh rounder. That's such a crapshoot. Chances are we're going to trade out of those positions anyways. Mm-hmm. But let's just get into the positions of need first and foremost. Before we get into any of the prospects, I think pretty much looking at our show notes, we probably have the same position of need. I think everyone knows that Detroit has very glaring holes in this position, in this team, I should say. And it is important to note that these holes can be filled outside the draft. There's still a number of guys out there on the free agency market that we could, contact and bring in, a lot of older veteran guys. But for me, my three positions of need that the Detroit Lions need to fill before next season is you obviously have your edge position opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, offensive line, and I'm going to go edge and offensive line again. I actually only have two positions of need, and I'm just going to double dip onto one of those two. I don't care if you double dip in the offensive line or double dip on the the defensive line, the edge position. Those are my three positions that need to be filled. What about you?
All right. Yeah, double dipping. And I think we're all pretty much in agreement, right, that the Lions didn't really do that much in free agency. And yes, to your point, they still have holes. Of course, one of the best teams in football, but far from perfect. I think my top three positions of need, yes, it's got to be edge. And we saw it last year. Hutch goes down, and then you just have no one at edge. And you got to get to the quarterback. That's the name of the game in football. So edge for me. I think defensive tackle, I feel like even though they do have some studs at defensive tackle, they are a bit light. And we saw that with the Aleem McNeil injury last year. And, of course, he's going to take some time to get back. So I really think that they could fill a bit of void there with a defensive tackle. And then, yeah, I'm with you. Offensive linemen, guards, tackles. I'm looking at a couple guys who have played both in college and might be, pretty flexible with if they could play guard or tackle. But yeah, those are going to be my big three, and they're all. I mean, it's all up front because we know that games are won with the big boys up front. It's really how this team was rebuilt under the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era. They just were building in the trenches. And in my opinion, not that it matters to anyone, but that's how you do it. You build and you continue to build, even when you don't think you need to take a guy up front in the trenches, either offensively or offensively or defensively. That's when you need to double dip. You can never have too many guys up there and too many guys in waiting. And you definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of one of those. We've talked about how easy it is for a guy to fall off that edge just because of age. We kind of saw that this past season with Graham Glasgow a little bit. So once you kind of see that drop off, you're already in trouble. You need to have that guy in waiting. So if you didn't think that those were the positions that the Detroit Lions needed to fill, we were not watching the same team. You could look at other positions too and say they could go with someone in the secondary, maybe another safety. You could say they could go with somebody in the wide receiver core. There's a lot of talk. We'll get into a rumor that I saw on Twitter towards the end of the Lions segment, but you could see them going with a wide receiver at some point. And it really just depends on
who we want to pay. We have so many guys that are coming out having to pay. If there's a guy in there that maybe we don't want to pay or we can't afford to pay, that suddenly could become a position of need, like a Kirby Joseph. If we're going to look at letting him walk, I don't think we're going to, but if he's someone we're going to let walk, that could suddenly be a position of need. So everyone agrees: edge, offensive line, interior defensive line, maybe linebacker, maybe secondary, maybe wide receiver. Those are going to be the positions that we need. So if you want to address those in the draft, great. If you want to address those again in free agency, even better. I personally still absolutely see at least one of those edge positions being taken by Zadarius Smith. I think he's coming back to Detroit. I think they'll get him back on some sort of team-friendly deal, at least for the mentorship. So I think one of those is going to be filled by Z or someone else. Von Miller's still out in the market. There's a number of different guys that are still out there that could come in and, they're not going to be every down guys, but they could fill that hole. But that's neither here nor there. But what we do have is, like I said, Kyle and I have both gone through and picked out our top 3 prospects that we expect to be around when the Detroit Lions are picking. So we're not going to go out and, pick the Abdul Carter out of Penn State. He's going to go top 3. Like, there's no chance the Lions no chance he falls to us. No chance the Lions trade up to get him. So these are guys that we think are going to be there around Detroit's picking, again, at 28. And they could trade up a little bit to get some of these guys. But so let's just go one-on-one, like back and forth. I'll start with my guys. So first and foremost, we already went through the positions of need. I think Detroit fills at least one of those first and foremost, and I really want them to go out. If he's there, I want them to go out and get the edge from Boston College, Donovan Ezaraku. Donovan Ezaraku is one of the best pure pass rushers in this draft class. It's a very deep draft class in the defensive line in general. So I think he's has one of the biggest bags on this. Finished top 3 in the FBS in both sacks and tackles for loss. He had 16.5 sacks this past year, 20.5 tackles for loss, which is incredible. I guess you could say he's a little bit undersized. He's just 6'2", 248, which is something that sometimes you see teams be a little bit picky on. I think one of the knocks on Aiden Hutchinson coming out of Michigan was that he had short arms. And had we have really hung our hat on that and passed on him because he had short arms, we'd be in big trouble. Like, Aiden's fantastic.
The Jags passed on him because he had short arms. Those
they went with Javon Walker, I believe, because they had short arms. And Javon's a decent player on the defensive line, but he's no Aiden Hutchinson. So he's a little bit small, that is, Donovan is, but he has a good frame. So on an NFL regimen, NFL, routine, workouts, get a real chef in there, he definitely could put on some mass and start to build out his frame. He's much more of a finesse, kind of like dip and rip edge rusher outside, as opposed to an actual bull rusher because of his, smaller size. But that's fine. He's someone that can really set an edge, or is really good on the outside. 2-year captain with great leadership. And the one thing I think is super important, as we just saw this past season, was that he played 36 straight games. He's durable. That's something that this Detroit Lions team, especially on the defense, desperately needs. Somebody who isn't prone to getting hurt, someone who can play every single week, especially if the NFL is going to be adding an extra week somewhere down the line. Being durable like that, 36 straight games, is someone that I think that in itself is extremely valuable to the Detroit Lions. So if Donovan is there at 28, he's my number 1 prospect.
Oh, I love it. Should we go edge for edge right now? I was gonna make an edgy joke. Credit for me for not making one. I am going to go with, so your guy was 6'2". I'm going with a guy who was a little bit bigger. Another edge rusher, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. So 19.5 career sacks across 3 seasons at Tennessee. The thing that sticks out to me far and away, and I'm not going to pretend like I have seen a ton of this guy's film, but he has some insane speed. He ran a 4.47 40, which is in the 99th percentile. He's known for his pass rushing, his ability to get to the quarterback with that speed and throwing in pass rush moves as well. So I think that would pair so beautifully with Hutch, alongside Hutch. Pierce Jr., he consistently drew double teams at Tennessee. Of course, he's the best edge rusher on the team by far, and he was still productive, right? 19.5 sacks. So, I'm just imagining him, one-on-one, alongside Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden's drawing the double teams, leaving a one-on-one for James Pierce Jr. And yeah, it's going to lead to some productivity there. Sacks, QB hurries, pressures, all the 9 yards there. So yeah, 6'5", like I said, he is only 245 pounds, so a bit undersized as well. But his frame has room to put on some weight there. So not too worried about that. 245 pounds, he could easily put on another 10 if he wanted to when he gets to the league. But yeah, he's one that I certainly have my eye on. I think he's projected to go right in that late first round window. So I would not be mad at all for the Lions snagging him up. I think he'd be an awesome compliment to Aiden Hutchinson.
James Pierce is interesting because going into this past college season, he was projected to go top 3, if not number 1 overall in this upcoming draft. He then had his next season. It wasn't quite as productive as the season before, and it really came out about his character. He supposedly had some character issues, some coachability issues. It really kind of boils down to, I think, in my opinion, everything I read, that he just really wasn't coachable in that he knew he was going to the league. Obviously, Tennessee was coming off a fantastic year, and I think he just kind of was already checked out. And so with the right coaching at the next level, I think that he could, that coachability can come into form in the right locker room. And I think that maybe it was going to help out a team that gets a guy who was projected to be top 3, top 5, is sliding because of maybe a slight dip in production and slight coachability issues. So the right locker room, a team can really get a steal with him. I'm on board with him. It is interesting. You mentioned he's 245 pounds. But what, 6'5", you said? So Donovan is 6'2", but 248 pounds. So Donovan's shorter, but a little bigger. So that just means James is a little bit taller, a little bit lankier. So he has that size, good reach, a little bit more weight. I think he could be really good. That's one guy, if we're going to go with him, I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, that like if you go with a guy like James Pierce, who maybe has a little bit of coachability issues, 100% I want to bring back a Zadarius Smith or bring in a Von Miller or someone, a Pro Bowl veteran edge who can really mentor someone that maybe has a little bit of coachability issues, because Hutch is fantastic, but we forget how young and technically inexperienced Aiden Hutchinson is. I don't want to throw too much on his plate coming back from his injury, being the face of a franchise, having now to mentor a guy who is incredibly talented but has some coachability issues. So I'm all for James Pierce if we can bring in the right guys around him. I think he's going to be a steal because somebody is going to get a top 5 talent that the back end of the first round because of that. So I'm all for James Pierce there. So clearly both of our prospects, number 1 prospects off the board, both edges. It is obvious. I mean, Brad Holmes was quoted saying, like, again, I think I brought this up last week, when he was trading for Zadarius Smith, it was the most impossible thing he's ever had to do, the most impossible trading and manipulating he's ever had to go through from a team organization standpoint. So I don't think he's going to want to do that again. I think it's fairly certain. I'm fairly certain that he's going to end up going with an edge for that 28th pick. But if he doesn't, my second prospect is going to be Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State center / guard. So Gray coming out is a 3-year starter, again, coming out of North Dakota State. Really could play anywhere on the offensive line because of his versatility. I think you mentioned in the intro, you were looking at a few guys that can kind of play across the offensive line. At the next level, he's probably best suited as a center or at guard. So that can kind of really whatever we want to use him as. If Frank goes down with an injury, we know Frank Ragnow has dealt with some injuries in the past. You could throw him at center. If Graham Glasgow kind of ends up having that poor season that he had last year, you can plug him in for Graham. If you obviously need to replace Kevin Zeitler, so you can maybe throw him at Kevin Zeitler for a little bit. You can really put him wherever you need to. So that's a huge upside for him. He's coming from a real run-focused team at North Dakota State, so he's just naturally a really good run blocker, which is something that the Detroit Lions have done really, really well for the past 5 years, right? We've had a great 1-2 punch of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. We have a great offensive line for run blocking. He could slide in really well and just kind of continue that and basically not skip a beat from where we were over past years. The issues with him a little bit, he's sometimes going to be pushed back against powerful kind of bull rushers, but he is kind of really, as soon as he off the jump gets pushed back, he's able to regain his balance on his footwork really well. Because of his footwork, really off the snap, he can move really well. And again, just like I mentioned with Donovan with Boston College, great durability. He had 36 straight starts again. So again, these are two guys that we're injury prone as a team. We just naturally are. We are from that past season. And we need to get someone who has shown that he can play, every single down, every single snap, and every single game. Now, coming from North Dakota State, it is a little bit lesser of competition, so you don't know if some of his numbers are a little bit inflated. But I think Gray Zabel is commonly being picked as like a real safe Pro Bowl upside pick. Very similar, in my opinion, to Frank Ragnow. Like, Frank was not a sexy pick when we took him, and I think a lot of people were surprised and a little bit mad because it's just not sexy. But it was the right pick, and it set us up for a long time. I think Gray could be that.
For sure. Yeah. Love the longevity that you said. This guy, he's not very injury prone. I'm also going with a guy, guard and tackle, experience doing both. Started 51 games in college, so that speaks to the longevity right there. And that is Donovan Jackson, the senior guard and tackle out of Ohio State. So, yeah, like I said, 51 games, started at OSU, 3 first-team All-Big Ten honors. And really what sticks out to me, he's also known for his work in the classroom as well, distinguished scholars. So, yeah, I think that he really would fit right into this Detroit Lions locker room that, preaches that dedication both on and off the field. Just really cool to see a guy who's actually, going there and, getting a great education on top of just being an absolute force to be reckoned with on the offensive line. So, really great mass, good leverage, and he's known for exceptional arm length. So, opposite of Hutch, no offense, Hutch, we know you're a beast, but this guy's got some long arms. So, definitely sticks out to me there. Would not be mad at all if the Lions scooped him up with that first round pick too, just because we talked about it, but we have seen some injuries on that offensive line, and I think the really cool thing about having a roster as good as the Lions is, you can use this first round pick and really build up the trenches, build up that depth. This doesn't have to be a guy that needs to slide right in and start, 17, 18 games for you throughout the regular season. You can work a guy in a little bit if you need to. You have that flexibility. You're one of the best teams in the league. So, yeah, wouldn't hate the pick at all if they go guard or tackle here with that first round pick.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page. Like, those are obviously the spots that we need to fill. I think there's great opportunities to do so in the draft. Just looking at his strengths and weaknesses on the athletic. I mean, you said it perfectly. He's very selfless. Again, he's just kind of like a great competitor, a great player. Like you said, great in the classroom. Only 2 penalties over his final 28 games, which is something if he's committing penalties in college, he's only going to commit more in the NFL when it's a higher speed, more power, more contact, stuff like that. So I really like that. I think it'd be great. I think someone that we could slide in. Again, if you have a hole in the offensive line, in my opinion, like I said, it's already too late. Like, you're already down a guy. You need to be able to have that guy in reserve. And so I'm here for that pick as well. Okay. So for my third prospect, I'm going to go back to I'm going to pick another edge, go back to it. I could see us doubling down on edge. I already mentioned, like, I want us to get a veteran edge from the market. But I could definitely see us doubling down on an edge position and going, if we're 28 and then going their second round pick or something with another edge. But my third prospect is going to be Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, the Aggies.
Gig him.
Yeah, he has a great combination of power and flexibility. He sets a really hard edge. I mean, he's nicknamed the Menace because he's known for playing his ass off for all 4 quarters. Just an absolute grinder. Fit in perfectly with this locker room for Dan Campbell.
I want him. You don't even have to go anymore. He's the Menace. I need him on my team.
We talked about names last week or the week before. Like, the Menace. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm sure he didn't give that to him. Someone else gave that to him. There are some concerns. So he has great, combination of power and flexibility. Insane off the snap. His explosiveness is incredible. As soon as that ball is snapped, he's up in the offensive line's grill. Wins a lot of battles right then and there just because he's so fast off the line. There is a little bit of issues with his productivity. So in all of his years at Texas A&M, he never had more than 1.5 sacks in a season, which is, so he has the traits, he has the techniques, he just doesn't have the production. So take that how you will. He did lead the Aggies in pressures, though, so 39. So he is being able to get in the backfield. He's just maybe not able to finish up, the play, and that does come and show on the stat book. So he does struggle to finish tackling, at 26.9 missed tackle rate, which is insane. Like, it just shouldn't happen at his level. So he definitely needs to work on his actual finishing technique, but getting in the backfield is not an issue for him. He's very disruptive, way more disruptive than, again, his production really shows. And if that's the case, if he's able to just even get in the backfield, get that pressure rate as he did for the Aggies, like, you have someone like Hutch on the outside. If you're flushing him out, Hutch can, pick him up on the other side. If Hutch is coming from one side and Shamar's coming from the other, you flush him up the middle, and then you have Lee McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike up there to clean him up. Like, just because he can't finish doesn't necessarily root him, count him out for me. So he's going to be my third prospect at that 28 spot.
Yeah, and it seems like maybe he might be a little bit more of a project than some of these other guys might be a little bit more raw. But again, I mean, we talk about it time and time, but when you're in the position that the Lions are, you kind of have that luxury. You can take a bit more of a project if need be. So, yeah, I like that pick a lot. Yeah, I think my third and final pick, I think I'm going to go with a defensive tackle, actually. And this is a guy who the two of us are really familiar with, and probably a lot of our listeners who are Michigan State fans, and that is Derek Harmon. Defensive tackle. Of course, he's out of Oregon, but he spent his first 3 years at Michigan State. 45 combined tackles, 11 for loss last season, along with 5 sacks. So I think what really sticks out to me for Derek Harmon is his pass rushing ability, as well as defending the run. He's really known for getting to the quarterback, 39 QB hurries. I believe last year, that's actually probably in his career, but either way, I just think it would be such a great addition on that interior pass rush. I should preface this, I don't think he falls to 28, but I do think that if he does fall, it would be a huge steal, and that, it would be an instant smash draft for the Lions. But I think that he just pairs so great. He would pair so great with Aleem McNeil. Aleem McNeil, of course, more of a run stopper, an interior force, and then you can bring Derek Harmon in for more of that third and medium, third and long when you're expecting a pass from the opponent. And yeah, I would love to see Derek Harmon back in the great state of Michigan. I believe he's from Detroit, so yeah, that'd be sick. But yeah, that's where I'm leaning, and that's my top 3.
Yeah, he's from Loyola High School here in Michigan. Yeah, Derek Harmon, like you said, a Michigan State guy. He is, again, we brought up the other two guys. He's durable, didn't miss a game over his final 3 college seasons, which is super important. Availability is your best ability. Like you said, he's great in the great against the run. He can hold his own. Has that effort that every defensive coordinator is looking for. Very athletic. Some of his weaknesses, and again, I'm just pulling these guys up on the athletic as we're with his weakness for Derek Harmon, good-looking frame, but has some sloppy weight on body. Now, I don't know what sloppy weight means. I'm sure we all have a little bit of sloppy weight. If that's an issue for Derek, I'm sure an NFL regimen can get him to have less sloppy weight. I don't know what that exactly means, but the one thing
you want your defensive tackles to be a little sloppy in the weight category. Like, you want a big boy, not too big.
You remember like Snacks Harrison for the Lions? 5-6 years ago, I would consider him extremely sloppy weight. So yeah. If he's there, I agree with you. I don't know if he's going to be there or not. There are some disciplinary penalties he took in 2024, some roughing the passer stuff that he needs to work on. I would love him to be here. I don't know. I agree with you. I think as soon as Aleem, and Levi went down with their injuries, we got really thin really quickly at the defensive tackle. I do think that Brad threw a lot of guys at the defensive tackle position in the offseason with Roy Lopez, getting Levi back and hopefully getting Aleem back by towards the beginning of the season. I don't know if they're going to go with a defensive tackle in the first round. I did see one quote that Brad Holmes said they're, quote, heavy on defensive tackle, not by weight, but by people, which I thought was interesting. It may be telling a little bit of where his mind is. But if Derek Harmon is there at 28, I don't think it matters if you are heavy at the position. I think you go with him anyways. He's a young guy, just 21 years old. So I'm all for it. 6'5", 313, great size. I'm here for it. But it sounds like, if we come away with any of these guys, maybe one of those guys even falls and we come away with 2 of these guys, I'm ecstatic. I think that's a perfect NFL draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we'll break down the draft in a couple weeks after it happens. But yeah, if they're drafting any of those 6 guys, obviously, Ty, we're the experts in the room, right? So yeah, Brad, if you're listening to this, smash one of those guys and pause, and we'll be good.
This should all be taken with a grain of salt. If you last year in the draft, if you were saying we were going to come away with a cornerback, I think everyone was saying that. But if you were saying we were going to come away with 2 cornerbacks that we traded up for, we probably would have called you crazy 2 years ago. You would have told us we were coming away with a first round running back, which isn't that valued in the NFL, and we're going to trade back in and get a first round linebacker that's not that valued in the NFL. We would have thought you were crazy. So Brad Holmes does a really good job keeping his cards close to the chest. So we don't know what he's going to end up doing. But I did want to touch on one final thing before we move on to another fantastic topic in the Pistons. And that, have you seen these trade rumors going around on Twitter and stuff, specifically about the Lions thinking about trading Jamison Williams?
Yeah, I saw it, and like I just don't really get it. Like, I mean, we just extended the guy, right? So I'm not a capologist. I don't know the implications that might have on a potential trade, but I feel like it's not great. Like maybe before you extended him, you could have traded him, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it being likely.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was actually, I mean, you're going to get these guys that are like, oh, we should trade so-and-so. We should, trade for so-and-so. And there's usually no actual, there's just smoke, no fire to it. But I saw a few actual guys that I follow and respect on Lions Twitter putting together some sort of packages and stuff, which was interesting to me that it actually got that far. I don't see it. I mean, I think what kind of sparked it was that the Lions brought in Matthew Golden, I believe, from Texas, a receiver that kind of was like, oh, okay, well, if we're looking to save some money, Jameson Williams, we can, avoid giving him the huge extension, just kind of ship him out, get what we can, draft basically a cheap replacement of him. I did see that if that were the case, they kind of projected us to trade him for a third round and a fifth round, which is just like a puke. That is disgusting. If that's all we got out of the guy, I'd rather keep him and use his explosive playmaking ability than get a third and a fifth round pick. They compared it to like a Calvin Ridley package when he was traded a few years ago. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I don't see it happening. I see us. There is a world in which like the third, fourth, fifth round pick, we do double dip into a receiver, get another one added in there. But there's no way we're trading Jameson Williams.
No, I don't think so. So, I mean, we'll see. Anything could happen, but I think it's extremely unlikely. And we're both huge JMO guys. I know most of Detroit is, so definitely wouldn't have liked to see that, and certainly not for a third and a fifth round pick. Like, now.
Yeah. So again, the NFL draft isn't until next week, so we have some time to kind of mull these picks over, these prospects over. It's on the 24th, next Thursday it starts. So we have one more episode in between now and then. Give a call into the Gridiron Report voicemail if you guys have specific guys you want us to go with. If you have any questions regarding the draft, any sort of mailbag kind of things, anything, any prospects, lines, position holes, stuff like that you guys want to talk about, give a call to that voicemail. We will play it on next week's podcast, do a little bit of more interactive possibly with the episode. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. But let's switch gears. Let's keep it going because we have so much to talk about the NFL draft, but we have just as much to talk about with the Detroit Pistons.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 6 years, it is with great pleasure that we introduce you to the 2025 Detroit Pistons playoff starting lineup. Your Pistons head coach and future NBA Coach of the Year, J.B. Bickerstaff. At 6'6", point guard out of Oklahoma State and future most improved player of the year, Cade Cunningham. At 6'5", shooting guard out of the great state of Michigan, Tim Hardaway Jr. At 6'6", out of overtime elite small forward with big hops, Asar Thompson. At 6'8", power forward out of Rocky Top, Tennessee, Tobias Harris. And last but certainly not least, the big fella, 6'10" center out of Memphis, Jalen Duren. It is officially Detroit basketball. Let's go, baby.
You give Mason a run for his money there. But Kyle said it perfectly. We have Detroit Pistons playoff basketball for the first time since, 2019? And we said in previous episodes, like, that doesn't really even count. Those were, we just getting swept, and those teams we kind of just limped our way into it. But for the first time, the Detroit Pistons will be the 6th seed taking on the New York Knicks. A lot kind of has changed over this past week. There was a chance that the Detroit Pistons, 2 weeks ago, we were fighting our way to get into the 4th seed even, and kind of we're sitting at the 5th seed and then finished up at the 6th seed as the season came down to it. Started resting a few guys. But the Detroit Pistons will start on Saturday, 6 p.m. in New York against the Knicks, and I am so fucking pumped.
Man, I'm pumped. If you couldn't tell from that intro, hopefully it didn't sound too cringe. I'm ecstatic though. I know we both are. Yeah, I think we were looking at the Knicks and we're like, yeah, this is a very winnable series. And I mean, Vegas might not think so. I'm just looking at the betting odds right now. Betting odds for the Knicks to win the series -360, Pistons +290, so almost 3-1 odds. Which is pretty long, and I do think that it makes sense. I mean, this is the NBA, and especially in the first round, I feel like upsets, they don't really happen too often. You kind of know exactly what you're getting from most teams when they're in the playoffs. It's not like the NHL playoffs where quite literally any team could win a series. I do think with that being said, though, I mean, this Pistons team We've seen it all year. I mean, they're gritty, they're resilient, and you can bet your ass, Tyler, that they believe that they are the favorites in this series. Like they absolutely believe that they can beat the Knicks, and I do as well.
I get where Vegas is coming from. Like I said, we've lost 14 straight playoff games, that's just terrible. I mean, the Knicks have been there before. They have experience. Playoff basketball, as we've mentioned in previous weeks, is a different beast. It's a different speed. It's a different kind of play style. It's a different officiating, really. So it's different. I get where Vegas is coming from. But you're right. This is the matchup that we were looking for. And as we're coming down to it, depending on whether we're going to be playing the Pacers or the Bucks or the Knicks, everyone was saying like Detroit matches up the best with the Knicks to an extent that like it almost made me like second guess. Like, wait a minute. Do we really match up that well? Like, do we really want the Knicks? Everyone is saying we match up with them. Do we really want them? And I'm here for it. You're right. The Pistons absolutely believe that they can win this game. I know JB Bickerstaff believes they can win this game in the series. It's starting obviously at Madison Square Garden. Cade this year at MSG is averaging 32.3% from the field, 56.3% from three, 9.5 assists, 6 rebounds, and a steal in both of his trips to MSG. I mean, that is first team all NBA level at MSG in his 2 games there. When the stage's the biggest and the lights are the brightest, he performs.
He's a beast, and yeah, I'm so excited to see him in those first 2 games at MSG. Like, yeah, you said it, but like he knows that he's a big dog, and he knows that when the lights are the brightest, he's gonna go at you one-on-one, Jalen Brunson. He's gonna beat you, and that's no slight to you, Jalen. But yeah, Cade. That's really just a testament to Cade being an absolute big dog. So yeah, I'm super pumped, man. So yeah, I don't know if we want to break down any more stats. I think you broke it down pretty well, Ty. Do we have predictions? Do you have predictions for this series? Like, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this a lot, and so I just broke down Cade's numbers at MSG. When he's even outside MSG, just against the Knicks in general, he's just as good. So I think he has 4 games against the Knicks. I just mentioned the ones at MSG. When he was away from MSG, as in here in LCA, still averaging 30.8 points, 56% from the field, 52% from three, and 5.0 rebounds. Cade's still going to be Cade. I want to break down their numbers here in a second, but for predictions, I think I'm going to have to go with the Knicks in 6. I think, I have in our show notes, like, what would make us happy? What would make me happy? Like, am I only going to come away happy from this season and this series with a series win? Am I going to, do I want to see one win, basically to break the 14 game playoff losing streak? Do I want to see a good fight? Like, what do I want? I think if the Pistons can put up a good fight, win a few games, especially having it start at MSG, I think I'll be happy, but I still think Knicks come away, Knicks in 6. Unfortunately, I think that.
I see what you're saying, but you're wrong. Pistons in 6. It's Pistons in 6. And I'm going to tell you exactly. This is the script. This is what's going to happen. Because I'm riding my high from the Masters Rory McIlroy call. So I mean I can't miss right now. They're going to split the first 2 games at MSG. I think that the Knicks win the first one, Pistons win the second one, and then back in Detroit, home playoff game for the first time in 6 years, and the Pistons are going to rip off 2 dubs to take a commanding 3-1 lead. They're going to give one back to the Knicks in New York, and then in Game 6, back in Detroit, they're going to get it done, baby.
I love that's a perfect storybook. If that actually ends up happening, and I can see that happening, that's perfect. But you have to think, like, this New York Knicks team is kind of, it's more of a super team than people think. It doesn't have, the KDs, the Steph Currys, the Browns and stuff. But you look at their team, they got Brunson averaging 26 points on 38% from 3. Josh Hart, 13.6 points on 33% from 3. Karl Anthony Towns, 24.4 points on 42% from 3. Mikal Bridges, who they traded for this past season, 17 points per game on 35% from 3. So, like, that's a really good top 4, like 1 through 4, the lineup that they have. Now, the issue with the Knicks is that they do struggle against teams that play with pace and play really stout defense. And that's really Detroit's calling card. The way that you slow down a team like Detroit is that you force them to play in the half court. You don't let them get out in transition, and that's where Detroit really struggles. Their half court offense sometimes can get stagnant. It kind of just equates to a Cade dribbling around, taking a shot, or trying to get some random shot off to Malik Beasley on 3. But if you allow them to get in transition, you're in trouble, and that's kind of what the Knicks struggle with. So there is a chance that could kind of come into play. Now, I know you gave your prediction, the Pistons in 6. What is the minimum number, like, what's the minimum outcome for you to be happy with? I know everyone's happy with the Pistons season. Like, we blew expectations away, but there's got to be like a minimum. Like we're here now. What's the minimum they win in this series to come away and consider it a success?
Yeah, I think the minimum, the bare minimum for me, just given how good this Pistons team is 2 wins. I think they at least have to get it to a game 6. They can't be, if it's some kind of gentleman's sweep, they might win 1 game. I'm not super happy with that performance. Of course, I'm not taking anything away if that were to happen. I'm not taking anything away from what was a very really, really awesome regular season. But I do think that it would be a bit of a disappointment for me if they, lost in 5. So yeah, I think you at least need to, make it to a game 6. I would love to see them make it to a game 7 if need be. And just really compete. I want to see them compete. I know they will. I know JB is going to have these boys fired up as if they need to be fired up anymore. I mean, it seems like they brawl with half the teams in the league. So yeah, I know they're going to be fired up and they're going to win some games. I know it, but I think that you have to win at least 2.
I'm the exact same way. I want to see them be competitive, and I agree with you. Being competitive means at least 2 games. So you force a game 6. And I think we do that. I think we already are ahead of expectations with this team. Now there's always a chance of reverting next year. We can talk about that in the offseason, but like that's where I think we need to go. And I think we need at least 2 wins. We're going to break that losing streak. It might go to 1 more, being the opening game at MSG. You mentioned we're going to split. I don't know if you mean we're going to split, win the first, lose the second, maybe lose the first, continue that losing streak in the playoffs to 15. But I agree with you. We got to win at least 2. But because we are in the playoffs, that officially means we do not have a first-round draft pick this upcoming season. All the way back from when we drafted Isaiah Stewart back in 2020, I think it was. We traded back into the first round to take him. Actually, with the Knicks, we traded with them, traded our first round draft pick. There was a bunch of exceptions on it. So each year it basically got rolled over to the next year, rolled over to the next year. This year, if we made the playoffs, the pick would then go back to the Knicks. If we missed the playoffs, we would then keep the pick. The Knicks then actually traded that first round draft pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's who it's actually going to go to. But the Pistons will officially not have a first round draft pick, which is, it's bittersweet. Like we don't have any draft talk to really go through. We're not going to add in guys, but at some point you can't keep adding young guys to an already young core. Like we have our young core. We need to now continue adding veterans to basically optimize the window we have. So we officially will lose that. I did see something that I want to get your opinion on. So the Pistons are basically not allowing people that don't live in Michigan to buy tickets to the playoff game. So in order to buy a ticket to the playoff game, you need to provide a Michigan zip code, an actual official Michigan zip code. They are restricting the playoff tickets to non-Michigan residents. How do you feel about that? Because people online are a little bit, they're iffy on it.
Yeah, weird. I mean, so I guess they're doing it because they don't want any Knicks fans or out-of-state fans coming in. Yeah, I mean, what if you have Pistons fans that are coming in from out of state? They just can't buy tickets. Like, I think that's kind of shitty.
Yeah, so people are saying online that it's a show of weakness, that they are basically afraid that the Detroit fans aren't going to show out enough to to buy all the tickets. And like you said, then you're going to have New York fans coming in and other fans from other teams kind of coming in and invading. So it's basically saying, people online are saying that it's a show, a lack of faith in the Detroit Pistons fans. I don't necessarily think that would have happened. That I think the Detroit Pistons fans will show out, me being one of them.
They will.
My 4 tickets came in the mail. I'm ready to go. And I think we'll show up. So I don't think they need to do that. But at the same time, I don't give a shit if you think that's weak. If we're going to give ourselves any sort of advantage and we can do that legally, why would we not let that? Why would we not basically force only Pistons fans to go there? So I don't really get the argument and oh, that's weak. I don't care if it's weak. If it's going to help the team, it's going to help the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think it's unnecessary. First home playoff game in 6 years. It'll be the first home playoff game at LCA. This city is just buzzing with playoffs, starting with the Lions 2 years ago, and then of course the Tigers last year, awesome playoff run. And yeah, both. But talk about defending the Den or at Comerica Park. It was all Detroit fans. So I see no difference here with the Pistons. It should be 95% Pistons fans, if not more. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't think I've really heard of that ever happening before. So it's kind of weird to me. I think it's unnecessary. I think we're gonna defend home court because it's Detroit sports and we're extremely passionate. So it just seems unnecessary to me.
I think it would be more necessary if we were playing the Pacers and it was Indiana coming in, because like I know a number of people who like would come up from Indiana and go to LCA and try and invade. I don't know many New Yorkers that are going to come all the way through, especially being a 7-game series and like the first 2 games being at MSG. Like if they want to go, they're going to go to those games. They're not going to travel all the way to Detroit. Of course, there's some Knicks fans here in Detroit that I'm sure are going to come, but they're going to be way outnumbered, like you said. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't see a problem with it. I agree with you, unnecessary, but I didn't see a problem with it until I saw a number of people on Twitter saying that Detroit fans saying they didn't like it because it was weak or show a signing of weakness. But thought it was interesting. I hope that, so real quick, I just want to say this, and this is strictly to the Ilitch family, to the Ilitch organization. Everyone else who is not Chris Ilitch or the Ilitch team and family like that, you can go ahead and turn this off for a few minutes. Just don't listen. This is a private conversation, please. Hey, Chris, let's do what the Raptors did. You remember how a few years ago the Raptors had like that Raptors Square? It was outside. It was a huge TV. Everyone was there. It was crazy. People were drinking, having a good time, enjoying the weather. Let's do that. Please do that downtown. We have the space for it. That was always the plan, to do something outside of LCA. Nothing ever ended up happening. You got to scramble now. Like we're much better than we thought. We have the screen there. You got to put something together, Chris. Like do something for the people. If you can't go into the game, go down. Let people go down there and watch it outside the stadium. Make it absolute havoc. Like that would be awesome. So make that happen.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I was on mute. I think I probably caught that last little bit there. Yeah, like the Tigers do something similar, right? Like I think for opening day Detroit, they had a big screen right outside Comerica, right? So yeah, I think it'd be awesome. Yeah, because like everyone's going to flock to Woodward, downtown Detroit for that game, even if you don't have tickets, which of course you were lucky enough to have tickets. That's awesome. I know you're going to be loud and donning that Detroit colors. But yeah, man, I would love to see that some kind of outdoor, because the weather hopefully isn't going to be too shitty at that point. I think it's been kind of cold the last couple weeks, but yeah, it doesn't matter. People would be all boozed up and ready to go. So yeah, I would love to see that.
When we're playing at Madison Square Garden, I just want on the broadcast them to like show a clip of Detroit, like Detroiters watching it outside the stadium. Like it's in New York, but we're all still getting together for it and just being crazy. Like I want that so badly. So the Raptors literally did it, and it was awesome. There's so many stories about how Toronto was able to come together and support that Raptors team when they won their championship. So it seems like such an easy thing that was promised to us so long ago when they built the stadium. Like let's get it done. Now we actually have something to root for. Get it done, Chris. So yeah, I'm super excited for this. Again, that first game is on Saturday at 6 p.m. Then the next game, a few days later, we're going to be back in Detroit. Probably after next week's episode, we probably will have 2 episodes to review during next week's episode, and then, 2 games to review during next week's episode, and then we'll be looking and previewing that first game here in Detroit. So hopefully we have at least a split to talk, or a split or even better to talk about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I hopefully, if not a little sweep coming back to Detroit. So yeah, either way, we're pumped. We're gonna be watching. You're gonna be there when it gets to Detroit, and we're watching Detroit playoff basketball, and there's nothing better.
Okay, so we got through the NFL draft. We got through the Detroit Pistons playing the New York Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. Let's get to some Red Wings sort of exit review of the season. So we've gone on the last few weeks, the last few episodes talking about how they're not really quite dead yet. They still have a chance. They might, drag us on a little bit longer. They are now officially dead. They have been eliminated for the 9th year. I believe it's the 9th year in a row, which is the 4th longest playoff drought in NHL history. The once storied Red Wings franchise is once again a laughingstock. So let's just get into how we think the season went.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just jump in first. Yeah, to put it bluntly, and it deserves to be put bluntly, it's the same shit, different year. Woof. Yeah, not great. I think each year we watch this Red Wings team after getting disappointed in the spring every single year, and we think, well, it's a young team. Surely they're going to improve and develop young talent and get better. Time and time again, they show signs of it, but they can't seem to put it together for an entire year. And it's really frustrating. And I'm not expecting them to go on these, crazy winning runs for an entire season and be one of the best teams in the league. I'm not naive. I know that they're just not there yet. They're not going to be one of the best teams in the league with the current roster, but I do expect them to improve. And when you have such an up and down start to the season, a really down start to the season actually, and you fire your coach, And then you think all is basically lost. And then the guy you bring in, Todd McClellan, you start ripping off some games, and yeah, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then what do? They do the same thing that they have done for the past 2 or 3 seasons, and that's just going a horrendous run of losses when you need wins the most, and that's in that late February, early March timeframe, which they did this year. They lost 6 in a row in regulation, and from there they were pretty much dead. So yeah, same shit, different year, and I'm pretty sick of it, Ty.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, because it's not just like that feeling of like we've been here before. It's not that terrible groundhog feeling. The numbers like back that up perfectly. So the Wings this year were 13, 17, and 4, and 8 points out of a playoff spot when they hired Todd McClellan. So they fired Lalonde, hired Todd McClellan on December 26th. They then went 17, 5, and 2 from December 27th to February 25th. So that is that surge that we talk about every single year. It happens. They went on that surge. They climbed into the first wild card spot. Then they lost 6 straight in regulation, fell out of the playoff picture, and were never able to recover. They did the same exact thing last year under Lalonde. So they started 17, 16, and 4. So again, terrible start out the gate. They then hit a switch, flipped a switch, went 16, 4, and 2 from January 2nd to February 27th. So almost the exact same. Yeah. I mean, by a few days. And then they end up losing 7 straight in regulations, falling short, as we know, at the last day of the season. So it literally, the numbers back it up, is the exact same thing. Now you can say, like, well, the circumstances were different because we fired our coach. We were then able to, rip off that run, and it just didn't work. I don't care. I mean, it is the same thing every single time. We talked about it at the trade deadline about how a lot of Red Wings Twitter is basically up in arms. Like, it's split down the middle. People that are still backing Steve Yzerman and really like going to war from him, and the other side of Red Wings Twitter that are saying like, this is the 4th longest playoff drought in NHL history. This is the winged wheel we're talking about. This is one of the greatest franchises in all sports, not just hockey. How are we a part of this? Like, when do we say enough is enough? So, and the numbers just back it up. It's the same thing every single year. Don't really hear much from Yzerman. He doesn't really care what we have to say. He doesn't really give us thoughts, in my opinion. I haven't seen much about that. But I mean, there are some things, some good things to talk about. We did have a number of guys, young guys, come up and actually contribute this year. So we had Raymond, obviously he's 23, led the team with 75 points. That was 26 goals, 49 assists. It was a career high for him. Mo Seider, still only 24, leads the team in average ice time with 25 minutes. So he was, giving everything he had. Simon Edvinsson, only 22. Albert Johansson, only 24. Marco Kasper, 21. Elmer Soderblom, 23. All of them demanded more time. It came up and actually contributed in one way or another. Marco Kasper had 16 goals in 42 games since January 1st, which led the NHL rookies in that span.
Yep.
And then even outside those guys, you have guys that are coming in. Nate Danielson, who is expected to make his Detroit debut here shortly. Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who is, again, just brought over from overseas, brought to Grand Rapids. So there are guys that, there are good things to point to the young guys. But at some point, we gotta like, make that move, right?
Yeah. And you kind of wasted another actually pretty good season from Patty Kane.
Yeah.
And so, who knows what's going to happen with him after this offseason. But, there were some bright spots. You mentioned Marco Kasper. His 16 goals from January 1st, most among rookies. 18 goals total. That's still 4th most among rookies. So he really got hot. And I was really impressed with him. It seems like he was making some really big plays down the stretch, too. Now, granted, the season was, more or less over at that point, but the kid's still skating really, really hard and getting it done both on offense and defense. But, I loved what I saw from DeBrincat as well. Had a really tremendous season, led the team with 36 goals, which was awesome to see because he was, I would say a bit sluggish last year and maybe to start the season as well. So he was really great. And then, you mentioned Edvinsson. He actually led the league in plus minus with 10. So with a plus minus of 10. So it wasn't all bad. But I think overall, like I said, it's literally Groundhog Day. This same exact thing happened last year, as you highlighted, Tyler. And I'm a little bit sick of the quote unquote puck heads, basically always saying that, if anyone is calling out Steve Yzerman, the puckheads are going to say, well, you know what, you don't know puck. And to that I say, it's just kind of bullshit. Like, it's honestly really unfair. I mean, we expect more. This is the winged wheel, as you said, Tyler. And this is one of the longest playoff droughts in all of professional sports, and it's, like you said, the fourth longest in NHL history. And yeah, I mean, I'm not calling for the guy's job right now, but I mean, you just have to do so much better if you're, a historic franchise like the Red Wings. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm fed up. I'm done with them. I'm glad the season's over. I'm gonna watch the playoffs, but it's not the same when the Red Wings aren't in it, and they are literally never in it these days. So it's a little depressing.
Yeah, I think that maybe Yzerman maybe bought a little more time. I agree with you, he's not being fired, but he might have bought a little bit more leniency by making that push that they made last year. So part of me is happy that they didn't make that similar kind of push. So maybe like they'll actually will do something this upcoming offseason. You have a good number of free agents or potential free agents, like a few guys that are older can still produce for a team that we maybe would be able to target. And so I hope that they go in and they make some moves. Now, just real quick to put you on the spot, you mentioned Patrick Kane Showtime. Do you think his time here in Detroit is up because we haven't been able to produce with him on the team, or you think we bring him back here because he loves to brink it in Detroit so much?
I honestly, if I'm Kane, I'm like, why am I sticking around with a team who has proven that they can't make it to the playoffs? Kane has now again proven, 2 years in a row that injury that he had, and the surgery that was kind of next level at the time. It's worked really well. He stayed on the ice for the most part. He missed a few games, but I mean he is pretty old. So, and he's proven that he still has quite a bit left in the tank. If you're Kaner, like, why are you sticking around to a team that has proven that they can't make the playoffs? I would love for him to stay. I think he's really electric, and he does a lot on offense and on that power play too. I mean, I think we should mention that another bright spot in the Red Wings were their power play. They were absolutely buzzing the entire season. So yeah, we'd love him to stay. But if you're Kaner, I mean, why the hell are you staying when you could go maybe chase a ring with a team who's a lot closer to doing that than the Red Wings are?
Yeah, if you're Kane and you're staying, it's because you love DeBrincat, you love Detroit, you don't want to move your kids again. Like you're choosing your sort of family life over your NHL career, so to say. So we'll see. Like I said, there's a lot to figure out. I'm with you. I'm glad the season's over. I'm glad now we can really apply the pressure this offseason. I think Yzerman has this offseason to figure it out, to get some big name guys. If you come away with a Vladimir Tarasenko signing again, I will be officially out. I will, as soon as the next season starts, and that's what our signing is this offseason, I will be the first to come on here on the episode and declare I am out on the Red Wings. I will not then jump back in until we see some sort of movement or anything. So we'll see what they end up doing. But disappointing year. I mean, I guess we had some fun for a little bit when they got really hot when we hired McClellan, but I mean, disappointing year in general. So
yeah.
Okay, let's do some rapid fire. We got to get out of here in a few minutes. So let's get some rapid fire. We'll start with the Tigers, going from the absolutely dead Red Wings to the red hot Detroit Tigers.
Hell yeah.
We're 10-6 on the year, first place in the AL Central. Going back to August 10th, they are 40-18. I mean, that is incredible. We talked about in previous weeks that I was curious whether this gritty Tigers, scratching and clawing from last season was going to carry over all the way through the offseason and into this new season, and it absolutely has. We've broken down all the different batters and how they're playing well. They are still playing so well. They're the best team in the AL by record and run differential. They have a plus 23 run differential. The New York Yankees are second with plus 21, and the Tampa Bay Rays are third with plus 18. They are electric.
Yeah, I love what I see out of the boys. It's so sick. I mean, they're pitching, they're finally hitting. I mean, we've talked about Torque so much this season, and he just had another sick Torque bomb in actually a game that they lost to Minnesota. But yeah, really awesome. Like when I watched it live, I thought it was a bat flip. It was still a bat flip. It was a good celebration, whatever it was. I was fired up. But yeah, you said it, 40-18 since August of last year. Best record in baseball since that point. And you know what I love most of all, probably, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Tariq Skubal, who pitched last night, Monday night. And this dude with a 9-run lead is still striking out batters and just yelling at the top of his lungs as he's walking out of the mound back to the dugout, because that's how fired up he is. He doesn't care if he's up 9, down 9, tie game. It doesn't matter. He's going to bring that ace mentality, and that's what I love so much about Skubal, best pitcher in baseball. So yeah, wanted to give a huge shout out to him. But yeah, team overall, I know this is a rapid fire, but boys are buzzing. Love what I'm seeing.
They're buzzing when we thought that they just need, like we said in previous weeks, they just need to tread water right now, and they're doing far beyond that. You have our reserve guys coming back from injury, Matt Vierling, Parker Meadows, Wenzel Perez. When those guys come back, you now have a team that is has so much depth, and this is all happening with Riley Green playing some of his worst baseball in the past year. He's hitting only 0.43 in the last 6 games or so. They're doing all this without one of their best players in their all-star Riley Green. So they're going to keep it going against the Brewers. Let's keep it moving, though. Like I said, and like you said, this is a little bit of rapid fire. College hoops, we do have a little bit of update there. So last week we went through some portal talk about who they could be targeting, who is leaving, all that stuff. We do have some updates. So Michigan State, we did find out that Trey Holloman will not be returning. There was a very, very small world that Trey Holloman would be returning to the green and white. He has decided to commit to Will Wade and the NC State Wolfpack. So we hope all the best for him. Kind of interesting to see him going to a smaller program like that. We didn't have much success last year, but Will Wade is a great coach. I know he has a little bit of spotty background, but it'll be interesting for Trey to go there. But Michigan State, outside of him, did get a commit from Caleb Glenn. Caleb Glenn coming from FAU, so a lot of the guys Michigan tapped into this past year. We are doing the same for Caleb Glenn. He did not play for Dusty May, though, during his time there. Caleb Glenn, a friend of Jeremy Fears, who has kind of been the main recruiter to get him to come here. I would, real quick, without going real deep into his numbers, Caleb Glenn is 6'6", I believe, 6'7", 3/4 position player. Really similar to Cohen Carr in that he's really good in transition. He's a really good slasher. He is very athletic, can dunk really well, but he does have a three-point shot that the Spartans really desperately need. He shot like 40% from 3 at high volume, like 4 to 6 3-pointers a game. So he's not afraid to let it fly, and he's hitting at 40%. So really someone that I keep saying Detroit, I got Pistons on the mind. The Spartans really needed. Now there's rumors that there's another transfer in the works right now. It has not been confirmed yet. They're probably still looking for a backup point guard and a starting shooting guard, but that's not been confirmed yet. So we'll hopefully come on next week and give an update there. And Dusty May in Michigan, they also got another transfer. So Dusty May really retooling his entire team. They went over to the West Coast, UCLA. They got transfer Ade Mara, the 7'3", 240-pound center. Played 61 games and 9 starts in his time for UCLA. Really going to kind of just replace Vlad Golden in that lineup. I think he only averaged like 6 or so points per game, but 7'3" is 7'3". Like, I don't care if you're productive or not productive. You at least can stand out there and put your hands up, and it's going to be hard to shoot around on defense. And offensively, just put your back to the basket and make a simple move, and you're right there. So really good move for honestly both state schools this past week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Caleb Glenn, I'm really pumped to see him play. Yeah, like you said, really athletic wing. He can shoot, which is something that we desperately need. A team that really shot the ball poorly for most of last season. And then, of course, you lose Trey Holloman, one of your best three-point shooters. Jaden Akins is gone as well. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a beast. He's going to be a plug-and-play guy, and hopefully he sticks around for, a year at least, 2 years. Would love to see it. I'm not sure if he's an NBA prospect in the future, but yeah, shout out Tom Izzo, finally getting it done in the portal.
Okay, so our last rapid fire, we got a little Masters talk. So you led the way last week. You want to take your victory lap right now?
I'll take a little victory lap. Yeah, hopefully y'all, any of our listeners, sprinkle a little money on Rory McIlroy. And won some money. Of course, I can't bet down here in communist Texas. But yeah, Rory McIlroy, your 2025 Masters winner. The kid finally gets it done. I mean, such an electric Masters in general, but especially that last round, Ty. Yeah, I feel like if it wasn't the best round of golf that I've ever watched on TV, that it's got to be a top 3, and it was probably the best round. So many ups and downs. Just when you thought Rory was going to run away with it, obviously early he double bogeys the first hole, and then just rips off a bunch of birdies, and he's in a commanding lead, and then rips off double bogey, and then it just gets super wild from there. Really awesome shots from Rory down the stretch, and then some really horrendous putting. And I know those greens at Augusta are just absolutely filthy, some of the hardest in probably the entire world. So yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm knocking the guy, because I'd probably shoot a 250 at Augusta. But yeah, Rory's putting, he'd probably be the first to say that it wasn't great on that final round, but he got it done when it mattered most. Ended up going to a playoff with Justin Rose, which was so electric. And Rory's approach on 18, when they replayed it, stuck it to about 2 feet, buried the putt for his first Masters win. And you could just see the the relief on his face, elation. It was really, really spectacular to see. I think I probably shed a few tears for the guy too, just because it was such a special moment. So, yeah, it was awesome. Shot 66 on Friday and Saturday, which ended up getting it done. So, yeah, I'm counting down the days till next Masters. It's going to be electric.
Yeah, my heart does break a little bit for Justin Rose. He's been so close. Well, that's his second playoff loss at a Masters, which is just brutal. But like you said, seeing the elation on Rory's face, getting that monkey off his back was just as, as much as my heart broke for Justin Rose, it was put back together by seeing Rory and his reaction, him being able to get that. So, yeah, you can't ask for anything more than playoffs in the Masters. So we've been lucky enough to get a few of those over the last few years. So, yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great call by you. I think I said Xander Schaufield was going to win at plus 20,000, I think it was. How did my guy end up finishing?
Did he he did make the cut, I know, because I did see some rounds on Sunday.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah. I think he actually finished pretty well. I don't know. I think he had a good final round. I think he probably had some sluggish rounds during the weekend, but yeah, I don't have his stats up in front of me, but I'm going to assume that your pick was pretty decent, Ty.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stick to football and basketball and baseball. You can keep high. I'll stick to my sports, but that is our rapid fire. We do have a listener voicemail that I'm going to play at the end surrounding last week, if you recall. I called out my dad, who I know is a listener, for possibly owing Javi Baez an apology based on how Javi's playing. He's still playing extremely well. Each week that goes by and Javi is still playing well, I think we owe him another apology. So my dad's response to Javi Baez and me calling him out saying he owes an apology. But we're gonna play that on the outro. Okay, so let's wrap up with some grit of the week. I will go ahead and get us kicked off here. My grit of the week. Not necessarily someone that I think you would expect, but just all in general, the product of work that they have put together this season deserves some recognition. My grit of the week is going to be Trajan Langdon, taking this team, this Pistons team that won 14 games last year, and turning them into the 6th seed in the NBA, not even in the play-in position, but the play-off position, and actually getting a home playoff game at some point. Deserves so much credit. I know we talk about JB Biggerstaff a lot. We talk about Cade Cunningham a lot. We talk about the veterans and all the rookies and stuff. But Trajan Langdon came in. He specifically had a plan. He put it in place, and it is absolutely working. I think he deserves all the credit in the world, and sometimes I don't think we give him enough credit. So my grit of the week, Trajan Langdon. Congrats, buddy.
Hell yeah. Congrats, Trajan. Yeah, he's been awesome. Just, I mean, when you go from one of the worst teams in NBA history to the 6th seed in the playoffs, I mean, you need a lot of praise for that. So yeah, I love that pick. I'm going with, probably no surprise, literally just talked about him, grit of the week for me, Rory McIlroy. I mean, he really just embodied grit, especially during that last round when it would have been so easy for him to succumb to all the haters and crumble like a cookie once again at Augusta. And instead, Rory, I think, showed some real balls, some real grit in the face of adversity, in the face of some pretty shitty wedge play and putting, and he didn't let it get to him, and just kept battling. So yeah, for me, it's a 2025 Masters winner, Rory McIlroy. Congrats, kid.
Yeah, shout out to Rory. Like you said, we already talked about it, how happy we are for him to finally have gotten that victory. So now, who's to say which one's more important, his Masters victory or his first and maybe only grit of the week appearance? Come on the podcast, Rory, and let us know which one you kind of favor more. But okay, great. Shout out, Rory. That is it for our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find Kyle on Twitter at Kyle_Marino. You can find me on Twitter at Dutton_Tyler and at both Piston Powered and Champaign Athletics. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1. Or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, you can join in the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That number is 313-306-7939. As I mentioned during the episode, next week we're going to be taking a lot of calls surrounding the NFL draft, Lions, roster positions, stuff like that. So make sure you guys call in, leave your questions, your opinions in there. And if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars and leave a review saying so. Make sure you guys download and not just listen to the episodes. That's how we're able to track our numbers and make sure we're bringing you guys the best Detroit sports content that we can possibly give. So thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
Tyler, this is your dad. Yes, I'm listening to your podcast. I can't believe you threw me under the bus. But I did deserve it. And I am cautiously optimistic that Javier Baez is improving but he ain't getting an apology from me yet. Maybe later on in the season, if he still are strong, then I will apologize. But not now. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The gridiron report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.